Most traders don't fail because they lack information. They fail because they cannot handle the truth. The truth is brutal, silent, and indifferent to how much you think you know. It doesn't matter what book you've read, what strategy you copied, or what indicator you've loaded. If you cannot control your actions when the market tests you, you will be eliminated like the rest. No warning, no second chances. The market does not care who you are. It only listens to price and action. And the overwhelming majority of traders fail for one reason. They violate basic principles of discipline and risk, not once or twice, but constantly. And when the final trade goes wrong, they act surprised, but the result was never uncertain. It was only a matter of time. I've seen fortunes made and lost. I've made and lost them myself. The reasons never change. The patterns repeat endlessly. Men enter the market with emotion and exit with regret. They chase noise, ignore logic, trust others, and refuse to accept what's right in front of them. The tape tells them what to do. They do the opposite. This is not a game of predictions. It's a business of execution. What you think does not matter. What you do is the only thing that counts. And if you don't understand this now, the market will teach you the hard way. Listen carefully. What you're about to hear won't comfort you. It will confront you. And if you're not ready to face the reasons most traders fail, you will become one of them. Subscribe now, like this video, and leave a comment. By doing that, you help more people see this message, and you let me know this. Work is not in vain. Every trader begins with excitement. They open their first position, take a small win, and suddenly feel invincible. It seems easy, too easy. A few dollars in, a few more out. They believe they've cracked the code. That first profit is not a lesson. It's a trap. It teaches them the wrong thing. It rewards randomness and disguises it as skill. The most dangerous moment in a trader's life is when early luck is mistaken for talent. That illusion is powerful. It creates overconfidence, and overconfidence invites recklessness. They size up too quickly, ignore structure, and assume that if it worked once, it will work again. But the market doesn't owe them consistency. It doesn't recognize previous success. It only reacts to price and action. Now, I made that mistake too. When I started winning in bucket shops, I thought I had mastered the market. But those shops were a sandbox. When I moved to real exchanges, reality hit. Execution was slower, spreads were wider, and the edge I relied on vanished. My capital disappeared faster than I thought possible, not because the strategy failed, but because I didn't understand that markets punish arrogance without hesitation. Confidence not backed by structure is just exposure. That's what most traders never grasp. They think the goal is to be right. It isn't. The goal is to survive. Those who make it past the first year aren't the smartest. They're the most disciplined. They learn quickly that a small win can teach nothing, but a loss that hurts and is studied can save a future fortune. The market doesn't care about your early results. Neither should you. The only thing that matters is what you consistently do when tested, and the test always comes. There is one mistake more costly than any other in trading. It's not choosing the wrong entry or missing a breakout. It's holding on to a losing position, hoping it turns around. That silent act of waiting just a little longer is what wipes out more traders than any chart ever could. Losses start small. A few ticks, a pullback, a dip, nothing alarming. But then comes hesitation. Instead of closing, the trader watches, the price moves further against them. They don't react. Instead, they rationalize. They tell themselves it's temporary. They enlarge the time frame. They scroll for news. But deep down, they know. They just don't act. Hope replaces logic, and the longer they hold, the harder it becomes to exit. The loss grows, but the conviction doesn't. It becomes a weight, emotional, financial, psychological. Soon the loss is not just on the screen. It's in their hands, their decisions, their identity. They refuse to let go, not because they still believe in the trade, but because closing the position means admitting failure. I've been there. I once held a position well beyond my stop. I had my reasons. Market noise, temporary pullback, misunderstood, sentiment. All of it was fiction. The result was fact. I lost more in that trade than I'd made in the past 5 combined. It wasn't the market that did it. It was my refusal to obey my own limit. A small loss is a trade. A large one is a mistake. And the difference between the two is time. Every second you delay is a second you give your account to the market. You cannot afford that. The smartest traders are not the ones who win the most. They are the ones who lose the least. They take losses quickly, cleanly, without hesitation. They cut what's not working and keep their tools sharp, because they know this: if you cannot take a small loss, you will eventually be forced to take a large one. And when that day comes, you won't be trading anymore. Most traders never build a system. They follow feelings, rumors, opinions, and hope. They chase setups they don't understand, enter positions without clear signals, and exit based on emotion rather than structure. This is not trading. This is guessing. And the market has no mercy. For guesses, I learned early that instinct is unreliable. What feels right today will often look foolish tomorrow. But a system, 1, you've tested, refined, and committed. 2 is the only protection you have against the chaos of price movement. Without it, every trade becomes an emotional decision. And emotional decisions have no edge. There was a time when I acted on impulse. I saw a stock moving and jumped in. No plan, no confirmation, just excitement. Sometimes it worked, more often it didn't. But the real damage wasn't the losing trades, it was the inconsistency. I couldn't measure success or failure because I had no rules to measure against. That's when I realized the truth. Without a system, I wasn't a trader. I was a gambler with good posture. A trading system doesn't have to be complex. It just has to be yours. It must tell you when to enter, how much to risk, where to place your stop, and when to exit. It must be repeatable, measurable, and grounded in logic, not emotion. And most of all, it must be followed. You don't rise in this game by predicting the future. You rise by responding to what's real and doing it. With consistency, a system gives you that ability. It removes doubt and replaces it with structure. Without it, even a winning trade can teach the wrong lesson, and a losing trade can destroy far more than capital. The market punishes randomness. It exposes improvisation. If you want to survive, build a system. And if you want to last, follow it every single time. Emotions are silent destroyers in trading. They don't shout, they whisper. They tell you to hold just a little longer. They convince you to ignore your stop. They make a small win feel like a failure and a large loss. Feel like a challenge to beat. If you don't recognize them, they will guide your every move, and they will lead you to ruin. Fear is the first enemy. It shows up when a trade moves against you, not because the loss is unbearable, but because the pain of being wrong is. Fear keeps your hand frozen when you should be acting. It convinces you to wait, to hope, to believe that the market will reverse just for you. But the market doesn't reward belief. It rewards execution. Then comes greed. It arrives not in losses but in wins. A position turns profitable and suddenly you want more. The plan fades. Discipline softens. The thought of giving back a profit becomes unbearable. So you take it too early. Or, worse, you overextend chasing something that's already played out. What was once a clear decision becomes an emotional storm. I've felt both. I've exited trades not because the setup changed, but because I got nervous. I've ignored exits because I wanted just a little more. Each time the result was worse than if I had followed my rules. The lesson was painful, but it stuck. Your emotions are not your guide. They are your test. You cannot remove emotion, but you can contain it. That's what discipline is. It's not coldness. It's clarity. It's the strength to act when you feel uncertain, to follow rules when your instincts scream otherwise, and to do it not once, but every single time. A strategy is only as strong as your ability to execute it without interference. If your emotions run your decisions, your results will always belong to them, not to you. The traders who survive this game are not those who feel nothing. They are those who act in spite of what they feel. A common misconception among traders is that bigger size leads to bigger profits. That belief has destroyed more accounts than bad setups ever have. What most don't understand is that risk is not measured in how right you are, but in how wrong you can be and how fast you can stop the damage. I never entered a position with full size from the start. I tested, I waited for confirmation. I let the market prove me right before I increased exposure. And If the trade worked, I added. If it didn't, I stepped aside. It wasn't hesitation, it was protection. I wasn't in this to prove anything, I was in it to last. I've watched traders enter with maximum size on unconfirmed trades only to panic. At the first pullback, the trade might have been valid, but their position was too large to survive, a natural movement. They didn't lose because they were wrong, they lost because they bet everything on being right too quickly. Overtrading is just another form of the same sickness. When one trade ends, they immediately look for the next, not because the market is offering something good, but because they can't sit still. They confuse action with productivity. But the market doesn't pay you to trade more. It pays you to trade well. Risk is not the enemy. Mismanagement of it is. Proper sizing keeps your capital alive. It gives you room to think, to adjust, to stay in the game. You don't win this business by being bold. You win it by being precise. The market does not care about your confidence, your ambition, or your need to recover from a prior loss. It cares only about execution, and the trader who can control his size controls his survival. Because one over-lever position is all it takes to erase years of discipline. Every trader loses. That part is unavoidable. What matters is what comes after the loss. Most look for someone to blame. They blame the market, the news, the timing, even bad luck. But rarely do they look inward. And that is the dividing line between those who grow and those who disappear. A loss is not failure. A loss is data. It's a report card. It tells you whether your system is solid, whether your discipline held, and whether you respected the structure you claim to follow. Ignoring that message is the most expensive thing you can do. I remember taking a loss that wiped out a month's worth of work. It hurt, but I didn't walk away angry. I wrote it down. I broke it apart. I asked the hard questions. Did I follow my plan? Did I size correctly? Was this setup even valid? The process was brutal, but the clarity that followed made me stronger. What most traders do instead is bury the mistake. They avoid the numbers. They shift the narrative. They move on without understanding why the loss happened in the first place. Then they repeat the same behavior in another trade, and the cycle begins again. This is not learning. This is denial. The market is a teacher that never stops testing, and it doesn't grade on forgiveness. If you don't learn from the pain, it will keep coming back, not because the market is cruel, but because you're giving it permission to do so. A trader who cannot study his own losses is no different from a gambler. Both are operating without correction, and in time, both end the same way. Empty. Losses are unavoidable, but they are only wasted if you don't extract the lesson. The trader who records, reflects, and refines is after every mistake builds an edge no chart can give. The one who doesn't won't be around to apply any lesson at all. The need to always be in a trade is one of the most dangerous habits a trader can develop. Many believe that if they are not actively buying or selling, they're falling behind. But the truth is, most of the time doing nothing is the smartest decision you can make. I learned to wait. I learned to sit on my hands until the market gave me what I was looking for. The setup had to be clean, the conditions had to align, and my focus had to be sharp. If any of that was missing, I stayed flat, not because I was afraid to trade, but because I respected the cost of being wrong. Most traders overtrade not because the opportunity is there, but because they fear missing out. They believe that constant motion means progress. It doesn't. Constant motion means friction. Friction in this game is expensive. Every entry, every exit, every moment spent in a weak position adds up, not just financially, but mentally. Some of my biggest profits came not from a high number of trades, but from a few trades held with conviction. And to reach those trades, I waited. I ignored noise. I passed on setups that didn't meet my criteria. I let the amateurs chase movement while I preserved capital and clarity. There is a difference between being active and being productive. You are not paid for activity, you are paid for accuracy. And accuracy takes patience. It takes control to watch the market move without you and not feel anxious. It takes maturity to know that your edge is not in how often you trade, but in how well you trade when the moment is right. The market is a constant storm. If you chase every wave, you'll drown. But if you wait for the one that moves with your wind, you ride it further than most. There is no shortage of advice in trading. Everyone has an opinion, brokers, friends, strangers, all eager to share what you should do next. But the market does not reward borrowed conviction. It only responds to your actions. And if those actions are based on someone else's belief, you are already exposed. I've taken trades based on tips. I've followed advice from those who sounded so. It never ended well, not because their idea was always wrong, but because I didn't understand the reasoning behind it. I wasn't trading the setup, I was trading the person. And that's a mistake the market punishes every time. The moment you rely on someone else's thinking, you abandon your own. You stop analyzing, you stop planning, you act based on emotion, comfort, or fear of missing out. You follow a signal, not a system. And worst of all, when it goes wrong, you have no framework to recover, because the decision was never yours. I learned to trust one thing only, the tape. It told me everything I needed. It showed intention, pressure, exhaustion, and strength. It didn't need headlines or commentary. It just needed attention and respect. Every time I followed the tape, I traded with clarity. Every time I listened to others, I traded with doubt. You can learn from people. You can study history. But when it comes time to act, your decision must be your own. It must come from your system, your analysis, and your readiness to accept the outcome, win or lose. If you cannot trust your own decision-making, you are not yet ready to risk real capital. And if you consistently outsource your trades to the opinions of others, then you're not trading, you're following. In this market, followers don't survive. Most traders have heard the rule: cut your losses short. Let your profits run. They nod in agreement, they repeat it to others. But when the pressure comes, when the chart turns red or the position starts to drift, they do the opposite. They cut the winners. They hold the losers. And they wonder why the outcome never changes. This rule is not a slogan, it is survival. It exists because the market is unpredictable. And the only way to consistently extract profit is to limit damage and allow strength to reward you. But that requires discipline, and discipline is rare. The reason traders violate this rule is not a lack of knowledge. It's emotional interference. Fear convinces them to take profit early, so they don't lose what they have. Hope tells them to give the losing trade more time. Both voices sound rational. Neither serves you. When I followed this rule, I built momentum. I let a good trade breathe, expand, and pay me fully. At the same time, I exited losers before they could drain my account or my confidence. The results were never instant, but over time, they were undeniable. My account was healthier. My mindset was sharper. My focus improved. When I ignored the rule, the damage compounded. A small profit felt like a victory, but it was masking an even larger loss that continued to grow. And by the time I accepted the mistake, the cost was far greater than it should have been. Traders fail not because they never knew the rule, but because they lacked the control to follow it. If you master just this one behavior, cutting losses fast and letting winners run, you separate yourself from the 90 who don't. This is the line. On one side are those who guess, react, and regret. On the other side are those who observe, act, and survive. The market offers both paths, but only one keeps you in the game long enough to win. If you've made it this far, you've already proven something. Most don't want to face the truth behind why traders fail. They want shortcuts. They want secrets. But the truth is, the edge is never hidden. It's just difficult. And that's why it works. You've heard the reasons now, not opinions, not theories, but the core behaviors that separate those who last from those who disappear. Cutting losses without hesitation, letting profits grow without fear, trading with structure, ignoring noise, acting with discipline, not emotion. These aren't tips. These are principles. They don't age, they don't change, and they don't forgive if you break them. Most traders fail, but you don't have to. Subscribe now, like this video, and comment anything below. That way, more traders will find this content, and I'll know this work still matters. Remember, the market isn't your enemy. Your habits are. Fix them, and the market becomes something else entirely, not a threat but a mirror. And if what you put in is structure, patience and control, what you get back may surprise you. Stay sharp, trade with reason, and never forget what you learned.